All right, let's dive right in. I want you to picture the spiritual heart of Cairo, the historic Husseini district. It's just buzzing with life, it's vibrant, and right at its center is the shrine of Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, for millions of people, this isn't just a place, it's a destination they feel they are personally called to visit. And that calling, that pull, is incredibly powerful. As one devotee, Sherine, puts it, you don't just decide to visit, you're invited. It's this idea of a mystical summons, a deep personal connection that so many people feel. They say that without that spiritual invitation, you could be standing right on the doorstep and still not be able to enter. So you have this really deep personal faith on the one hand, but it exists right alongside something absolutely massive, the annual mawlid, or birth celebration. And during this time, the whole district just transforms. The normally quiet alleys become this surging sea of humanity. Pilgrims, vendors, chanters, all swept up in this incredible wave of collective energy. But here's the twist. This huge, sprawling festival, the main event, it's not for his actual birthday. In fact, Egyptians celebrate Imam Hussein's birth twice every single year. And that brings us to the central puzzle we're tackling today. Why? Why two celebrations? And more importantly, why is the one that isn't his real birthday the one that everybody shows up for? Okay, so let's unpack this puzzle. We're looking at two totally distinct events. And yeah, they're both called a mawlid, but they are commemorating very different things. And right here, the mystery gets even clearer. So the first mawlid, that one's in the month of Sha'ban. It marks his actual birth, way back around 625 CE. It's a relatively quiet, subdued affair. But the second one in Rabi al-Awwal, that's the big one, the main event, drawing these enormous crowds. And as you can see, it has nothing to do with his birth. It's all about the arrival of his noble head in Cairo. So why on earth is that event treated as a birth? Well, to understand this, we have to explore this fascinating idea of a new birth. And we're not talking about a new birth for a person, but for an entire nation. So first things first, let's talk about the word itself, mawlid. In Arabic, it literally means birth. And it's most famously used for the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad. So you can see, using this term for something that isn't a birthday is a very deliberate, very significant choice. It means something. And here it is, the heart of the answer. That massive celebration marks a specific moment in history, the year 1153. That was the year when the sacred relic of Imam Hussein's head, known as the Ras Sharif, arrived in Cairo to be kept safe. For the people at the time, this was just a monumental event. And you really get a sense of this from Dr. Munir al-Khalaji, the imam at Hussein's mosque. He puts it perfectly. For Egyptians, this wasn't just some relic showing up. It was a spiritual rebirth for the entire country, an infusion of divine light and blessing. And that is why they call it a mawlid. It was like a new birthday for Egypt itself. But wait a second. How did the head of a man who was martyred centuries earlier in what's now Iraq end up in Egypt in the first place? To understand that, we need to trace its long and pretty dramatic journey. The story starts with a terrible tragedy back in 680 CE at the Battle of Karbala. That's where Imam Hussein was martyred and his head was separated from his body. For years, it was paraded through cities like Damascus, almost like a trophy of war. Eventually, it was enshrined in the city of Ascalon. But then, fast forward to 1153, the Crusaders are a real threat, and the Fatimid rulers of Egypt made a decision. They brought the head from Ascalon to Cairo to make sure it would be safe. Now, this arrival in Cairo, it wasn't just some footnote in a history book. Oh no, it became the foundation for this incredibly deep spiritual tradition, though it's one that isn't without its own complexities. Okay, so here's a really crucial concept you need to know, baraka. The belief is that the physical presence of this holy relic infused the entire land of Egypt with a divine blessing, a kind of grace and protection that people feel continues to this very day. This belief in baraka is the engine behind the celebration. It's like an annual renewal of that national blessing. And what's amazing is the contrast. You have all that chaotic energy out on the streets, but inside the mosque, it is a completely different world. It's a time of deep, serene devotion. You've got Quranic recitations, lectures, and this continuous, beautiful sound of praise poetry. It's a peaceful, spiritual immersion where people share sweets and offer prayers day and night.
Now, it is important to note, this tradition isn't universally accepted. There are some scholars, particularly from the more conservative Salafi school of thought, who really question the historical accounts. They ask, is the head truly in Cairo? For them, the authenticity of the site is still very much a matter of debate.
But for the vast majority of Egyptians, that historical debate is kind of secondary. What really matters is the living, breathing legacy of this tradition, a legacy of unity and of communal joy. As the Egyptian author Nawara Negm says, the shrine just offers this profound sense of comfort and solace. It's a place people go when they're in need, and the belief is that no one who comes seeking help or peace is ever turned away. And that personal connection, that's the real bedrock of this entire celebration.
And this, I think, is the really beautiful takeaway. This celebration is such a uniquely Egyptian phenomenon. It blends the deep reverence for the Prophet's family, something often associated more with Shia Islam, with the deep, inclusive love that Egypt's Sunni majority also holds for them. It just transcends those sectarian lines and becomes this powerful cultural anchor for the entire nation. So we're left with this incredible final thought. How does a historical tragedy, something that happened centuries ago, transform into a living, breathing symbol of communal joy and spiritual renewal? The story of Imam Hussein in Egypt is a powerful testament to the ability of faith and culture to do just that, to find light in even the darkest of histories.